Welcome, it is Mitch. I'm on YouTube. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel as we try to build this thing up. Part 3 of our series. This is the final one, Packers unrestricted free agents. We've been lumping a couple together in each video. We've done Malik Willis, Romeo Doubs, Rasheed Walker, Sean Ryan. We finish with Quay Walker and Kingsley Enagbare, two fascinating names. You know, as we've done this 3-part series in the last couple of weeks, there's been some easy ones. Like we all know and have come to terms with Malik Willis is going to move on. And rightfully so. He is going to get a well-deserved contract that the Packers cannot match, should not match for someone who would be a backup in Green Bay and will likely be competing for a starter's job somewhere else. Romeo Doubs, we'd all love to have him back. Writing's on the wall. The market and what it'll dictate for someone like Romeo Doubs and what he should gather in a contract from another team compared to what the Packers likely would want to offer or feel comfortable offering. Writing on the wall, Romeo Doubs probably gone. Same thing with Rasheed Walker in the left tackle market. He's arguably the best tackle available in this free agency class. Then you get to a couple of interesting names. Quay Walker, Kingsley Enagbare. What should the Packers do? What do we think the Packers will do? And sort of making the case for and against both. Let's start with Quay Walker. 2022 first-round pick. Has led the team in tackles every single year he's been in Green Bay. All 4 of them. Coming off a season this year where he had 128 of them. It's a statistic that's easy to overlook, but to me it is noteworthy. You lead a team in tackles in 4 years, you're clearly not, out on the field in a laissez-faire, lackadaisical manner without a care in the world. I don't think anyone's ever questioning the motor, the energy, the drive of Quay Walker. And so I did want to start by noting he's led the team in tackles each and every one of his 4 years in Green Bay since getting drafted. Keeping Quay Walker around in the picture for 2026 and beyond keeps that duo at inside linebacker of Quay Walker and Edgerrin Cooper. When Green Bay went out and drafted Edgerrin Cooper in the second round a couple years ago, the first thought was, wow, pairing him with Quay Walker, maybe that unlocks Quay even more, but it also gives Edgerrin Cooper, once he gets his feet beneath him in the NFL, because everyone projected him to be a starter. You don't take a guy in the second round unless you project them to be a starter at some point, and the hope is that it's relatively early on in their career like it was with Edgerrin, and the hope was that could be a formidable duo at inside linebacker for Green Bay. It's been good. Has it been spectacular, great? Has it been all-pro worthy for either guy? No. And specifically for Quay Walker 4 years in, no. He's never, even as a first-round pick, played at an all-pro type of level. But if you keep him in the picture and you re-sign him to a deal, you keep that duo together, which many viewed early on, it still maybe could be viewed as a dream pairing. I do think it's fair to say that Quay Walker has never quite lived up to the hype of a first-round pick, albeit it was a late first-round pick, but he has been incredibly reliable as a player who has certainly matured over the course of his 4-year career so far. Do you remember some of the hiccups with suspensions and late hits and shoving a coach in his rookie season where it's like, whoa, they got to somehow figure out a way to rein that in. And they did, alongside with Quay. And so you've seen that maturation process over the 4 years. I think one of the issues maybe that some people have with Quay Walker, maybe not with Quay specifically, but his play is that have we seen him take gigantic leaps and gigantic steps forward each and every year? He's been incredibly consistent, incredibly reliable, pretty durable. He's missed games here and there, but for the most part, he's played the large bulk in all 4 seasons. But what's the difference between Quay Walker year 2 and Quay Walker year 4 that just concluded? And is it dramatic and drastic enough where Green Bay should be turning over every leaf to find a way to re-sign Quay Walker at all costs, no matter what? I don't know if he's viewed that way inside the building. I don't know if he should be viewed as a player that Green Bay absolutely, positively has to bring back no matter what. I don't know if I view it through that prism. But he certainly is, as I said, consistent, leads the team in tackles all 4 years. I do think it's very important. He wears the green dot. Like, he is in charge of a hell of a lot of the communication that goes on the field with that defense. Now, it's not, an impossible task to turn over the green dot to someone else, and at some point in time, you're going to have to do that. Quay Walker's not going to be the starting inside linebacker for the Green Bay Packers forever, and perhaps if the Packers do let him walk, they can view it as, we'll have someone else wearing the green dot in 2026, but we also have a new defensive coordinator, so we're kind of making that switch at the same time. Jeff Hafley to Jonathan Gannon. Maybe someone overpays for Quay Walker to a point where Green Bay's like, we just can't match what team A, B, or C is offering Quay. And so we'll have to bring someone in to start, or maybe it's someone on the roster. We'll get to that in a minute. But we also have a new defensive coordinator, so having someone else wear the green dot in 2026 is lining up with us having a new DC. Again, I don't know if you necessarily should view it that way if you're Green Bay, but you could if there is someone who, just empties the Brinks truck for Quay Walker, which I don't know if that will happen, but it is very possible that if he hits unrestricted free agency, that some team with money to spend will offer more than Green Bay is comfortable with or more than Green Bay can for Quay Walker. But you bring him back, you bring back familiarity, you bring back cohesion, you bring back the guy who wears the green dot, you bring back the guy who's led the team in tackles all 4 years he's been in the green and gold. There's a lot of, I'll phrase it this way, for a team that is trying to capitalize on a championship window that very clearly exists right now, and it's maybe not a small one, and maybe Jordan Love evolves into the type of quarterback where, hey, every year you have Jordan Love, you have a puncher's chance. I don't know if he'll ever ascend to that level of comfortability that we felt with Rodgers. I've mentioned before, anytime Aaron Rodgers was under center for the Green Bay Packers, I thought they, at worst, had a puncher's chance to win, and in 99% of the cases, it was way more than me believing they had a puncher's chance. And so I went into each season saying, they have Aaron Rodgers. They've got a chance to win it all. Unfortunately, it only happened once. Maybe we should say, thankfully, it did happen once. I don't know if Jordan Love will ever get to that level, but Green Bay has this championship window right now, so it would make sense to want to stick with the same blueprint or a familiar blueprint, especially with all this turnover on the staff defensively. It's not only a new DC, new DBs coach, new linebackers coach. There's other vacancies that are being filled on this defensive staff because Jeff Hafley kind of raided it and took a bunch of those guys to Miami, which he had every right to do. And so if you're Green Bay, it'd be nice to have some familiarity in the form of Quay Walker, who, again, I have to mention, he wears that green dot, and it would keep communication in a familiar spot for the entire defense, which to me, that matters. Another thing we have to factor in is kind of reading through the tea leaves of what Brian Gutekunst and others have said about Quay Walker. If you remember last offseason, Goody was asked about the fifth-year options for both Quay Walker and Devontae Wyatt. Both were first-round picks in 2022 for Green Bay. Brian Gutekunst last year, and it was last April, folks, before the draft, said, and I quote, "I think we're pretty close," when he was asked about decisions and what they want to do with Wyatt and Walker. He said, "I think we're pretty close." This is a direct quote. "We aren't going to deal with it until after the draft, but both of those guys," talking about Walker and Wyatt, "whatever mechanism we use, we would like to keep those guys around for 2026 and beyond. So whether that's doing the fifth-year option on those two or extending them, one way or the other, we're planning to do that. We would absolutely like to do that." Now, remember, they exercised the fifth-year option with Wyatt. They did not with Quay Walker, but nobody was panicking thinking, oh my God, they're going to let Quay Walker go after this year. It was, okay, well, Goody's on the record saying the plan is to keep both of these guys around, and obviously plans can change, but he sounded pretty convincing. It wasn't like last offseason when he was talking about some pending free agents and he was asked about Josh Myers, and he was like, yeah, Jordan Love has comfortability with Josh Myers as the center, and it'd be nice to have him back, and then he bolts for the Jets, right? Because Green Bay just didn't offer anything. With Quay Walker and Devontae Wyatt, it was more definitive. It was more direct, with Goody saying, I think we're pretty close. We won't deal with it until after the draft. Both of those guys, whatever mechanism we use, we'd like to keep them around for 2026 and beyond, whether that's doing the fifth-year option on these guys or extending them. One way or the other, we're planning to do that. It's way more direct. And so to now see Quay Walker hitting free agency a year later, maybe there's room to draw a little bit of pause, but also in their heart of hearts, it sounds like Green Bay wants to keep Quay Walker around. And I don't think there's anything, because a lot of those comments from Goody came last offseason, I don't think there's anything Quay Walker did in 2025 that would steer Green Bay away from the idea of let's let Quay Walker go. We don't want him back. Again, his fourth year was good, just like his third year, just like his second year for the most part. The one issue I have is, have we seen the development, the improvements from Quay Walker on the field to a point where it's like, oh, he's clearly peeling back the layers of the onion. Like, he's clearly getting better year over year. I think he's been consistent. I don't know that I've seen Quay Walker rapidly improve over the course of his 4 years in Green Bay, at least to the extent that you would want to see in a former first-round pick. So I think it makes sense bringing him back from the standpoint of, I use this phrase a lot, I know I do, but it's a high floor. It's consistency. It's a high-floored inside linebacker, and you keep a solid duo with Quay Walker and Edger and Cooper, and it won't break the bank. I was looking at Spotrack's market value. They have Quay's market value at a little over $8 million, and they have a contract in the neighborhood of 3 years, $24 million, being a realistic outcome for Quay Walker in free agency with whoever signs him. And Green Bay might have to shuffle some things around to make that work. We've talked about cap casualties, but it's doable. Like, if it's 3 years, $24 million, if the annual salary for Quay Walker is $8 million, that's doable for Green Bay. The question you have to ask is, how much are you prioritizing someone like Quay Walker over someone like Sean Ryan or Romeo Doubs or a Kingsley Enagbare, who we'll get to in a second? Because if Quay Walker does walk, no pun intended, you look around on the roster, it's like, well, Isaiah McDuffie could be a placeholder. He's under contract for 1 more year. He has shown he can start and be, league average at inside linebacker. How enamored is Green Bay with Tyron Hopper? Hopper was a 3rd-round pick a couple years ago. Again, it was not a throwaway pick. It wasn't, hey, let's take a flyer on this guy late in the 6th round or early in the 7th round. They used a 3rd-round pick, a top-of-the-half draft selection on Tyron Hopper, and it's been crickets for 2 years. Is that because Quay Walker and Edger and Cooper are cemented in, or is that because they haven't seen the development that they thought they would with Tyron Hopper? Is it a combination of the two? But if Quay Walker leaves and Green Bay looks around, you have a couple of in-house options. McDuffie could be a placeholder for 1 year, or you could hand the keys over to Tyron Hopper. I'm not saying the green dot. I'm saying you hand the keys over to a starting role and say, let's see what we got in this 3rd-round pick from a couple years ago. So it is not as if Quay Walker leaves, Green Bay isn't necessarily going to be looking around saying like, oh my gosh, we're screwed. We have absolutely nobody else. Do they have a player that's as good as Quay Walker in McDuffie or Tyron Hopper? Probably not. But I don't think the wheels completely fall off the bus with using Isaiah McDuffie. Again, I used the phrase as a placeholder for a year. Like, he's completely passable, using him for 1 season as an inside linebacker. And maybe Green Bay dips its toes into the waters of inside linebacker via the draft. Remember, they don't have a 1st-round pick. Maybe it's free agency, but again, if they're signing anyone at inside linebacker in free agency, it makes the most sense to bring back Quay Walker, again, because it's not gonna break the bank. I do believe whatever route is chosen with Quay Walker, let me know if you guys and gals agree or disagree with this. My hunch is that whatever route, whether it's they bring him back, he signs elsewhere, and Green Bay doesn't really show much interest, I don't think it's going to cause an uproar with the fan base one way or the other. If Quay Walker's back, great. The Packers keep the duo of Walker and Cooper intact with the hopes that in year 5, Walker can continue getting better or show those drastic signs of improvements. If he's gone, the Packers have a temporary option in McDuffie, can strip the training wheels off of Tyron Hopper if they want to do that, while providing insurance elsewhere, maybe via the draft. Walker has been good. Nothing close to an all-pro. Nothing close to, and I don't mean this to be a shot, but nothing close to an asset where it's like, if Quay Walker's playing somewhere else in 2026, you look at Green Bay's defense completely differently through a lens where it's like, oh, they're screwed, they have no chance. Like, no, if they lost Micah Parsons or Xavier McKinney, we have that conversation. Quay Walker's a good player. He is not, or hasn't shown to be an asset where Green Bay needs to focus solely on him this offseason and nothing else and nobody else. You'd love to have him back. He's a good player. We'll see what they end up doing. I don't think it's the type of player that Green Bay says, is hammering the fist on the table saying, we have to bring him back even if it's at a massive overpay. Figure it out. Mitch, I'm on YouTube. Always appreciative of all the support. Click the subscribe button. Takes 2 seconds to do so. Costs you nothing. Helps me immensely as I build up the channel. Second name we're talking about today, Kingsley Enagbare. I think the case for bringing back Kingsley Enagbare is pretty simple. And there's multiple elements to it, but I think it's pretty simple. The case to make for bringing back number 55. Will the Packers do it? Who knows? When Micah Parsons suffered a torn ACL in Week 15, Kingsley Enagbare saw his number called more often than damn near anyone else at defensive end the rest of the way. Not just in that Denver game, not just in the follow-up game, not just in a couple of weeks after the Micah Parsons season-ending torn ACL injury. For the rest of the way, Kingsley Enagbare consistently saw his number called more than pretty much anyone else at defensive end. Names that include Rashawn Gary, Lucas Van Ness, Barron Sorrell, Colin Oliver. We saw a little pinch of that. Brenton Cox Jr., who came back into the mix. It was Kingsley Enagbare who outsnapped every single defensive end on the roster in each game after the Parsons injury, including the playoff loss in Chicago. Kingsley Enagbare played more snaps than anyone else on a week-in, week-out basis. More than Gary, more than Van Ness. Add it all together, obviously, if he's out snapping them week by week, the grand total is going to be more during that stretch I'm talking about, from the Parsons injury to the playoff loss in Chicago. The numbers don't necessarily jump off the page with Enagbare, but throughout the course of his 4 seasons in Green Bay, he has been extremely consistent and really damn good against the run. No Packers defensive end was credited with more stops, and I'll talk about what that is according to PFF. No Packers defensive end was credited with more stops this year than Kingsley Enagbare when it came to the run game. And PFF describes a stop in the run game as a tackle that constitutes a failure for the offense. Kingsley Enagbare had 18 such tackles in 2025, top among his position group on the team. He's been as durable as it possibly gets. Sometimes, what do I say? A lot of people say it, the best ability is availability. Kingsley Enagbare, in 4 years with the Green Bay Packers, has missed a grand total of 0 regular season games. He has missed 0 games in 4 years. He had that knee scare in the 2024 postseason where it sounded like it was a torn ACL, but it wasn't a torn ACL, and he was fine the following season. He has not missed a single regular season game for the Packers. Having someone who's proven to be readily available each and every week is a luxury for any team, and certainly a luxury for a Packers team that has seen some brutal injuries across the board, and specifically at that position this past year with Micah Parsons, Colin Oliver, who wasn't ready for the start of the season. Lucas Van Ness has been banged up throughout his 3 years in Green Bay. Then there's Kingsley. Rashawn Gary had the torn ACL a couple seasons ago. Then there's Kingsley Enagbare, who has not missed a single regular season game. Look at every other name at defensive end. Brenton Cox missed most of the regular season dealing with an injury. And I'm not blaming these guys. I'm just pointing out how important durability and reliability is. Kingsley Enagbare in 4 years has not missed a regular season game. Rashawn Gary's had to deal with a torn ACL. Brent Cox missed most of this season. Lucas Van Ness has missed large chunks of seasons during his 3-year stint in Green Bay. We just saw Micah Parsons tear his ACL against Denver. Enagbare's been out there every single regular season game the last 4 years. And to me, there's even more reasons as to why the Packers should bring back Enagbare. The final 2 that I'll mention are, to me, just as important as the ones already listed. The versatility he has is incredibly important, whether you value it or I do or we don't. Doesn't matter. The Packers do. They love versatility. They love players that can wear multiple hats. Kingsley Enagbare has played at least 150 snaps on special teams each of the last 3 seasons. That is nothing to scoff at. He's played at least 150 on teams each of the last 3 seasons. And even in his rookie year, after being, wasn't he a 5th-round pick? Was he 4th or 5th? I know he wasn't 6th or 7th. Let's see here. I know this doesn't matter, but it'll drive me nuts if I don't look it up while I'm talking about it. Enagbare was a 5th-round pick, 179 overall. And even in his rookie season, after being a 5th-round pick, he logged 86 snaps on special teams. As a defensive end, he's a solid player. Really good against the run. He'll never be relied upon to be like a savior or an all-pro or play at that level. But he knows his role on this team, and he's damn good at it. And the added bonus of his ability to, line him up at defensive end, put him on special teams for a hell of a lot of snaps. It's a massive plus in Green Bay. And the final thing I'll mention, and it's prevalent and relevant with all of these Packers free agents because of the salary cap situation, the money. Spotrac has Enagbare's market value at a shade below $6 million, an estimated contract of 2 years, 11.8. It would not break the bank to bring back Quay Walker. It would not break the bank to bring back Kingsley Enagbare at those estimates. It is fair to wonder if there is a team or multiple teams that would up the ante and maybe view Enagbare as, hey, the Packers kind of used him in a reserved role, but he played starter snaps when it was needed and called upon, and he did just fine. We want to play him at a start. We want to pay him and play him at a starter's rate and a starter's pace. It's not impossible that a team in free agency does that. Essentially what I'm saying is it's possible the Packers could get priced out of bringing back their former 5th-round pick from 2022. But if there's wiggle room to work something out, I think it makes a lot of sense, especially for a team that very well could be parting ways with Rashawn Gary, or at least trying to restructure his deal if they want to keep him around in the offseason. And they'll need proven options, reliable options, on the opposite side of Micah Parsons once he returns. The case against Enagbare is, it's not, I just would say it's not really justifiable. It's not nearly as long as the pros for wanting to keep him. One issue that pops up is the scenario mentioned where the Packers are not going to be, swimming in a financial situation that's advantageous. If there's a team that does have money to spend and takes aim at Enagbare, he's probably as good as gone if they want to play anything close to a starter's rate. And secondly, while the Packers need help at defensive end, especially after Rashawn Gary disappeared for the entire second half of the season and Van Ness wasn't able to put it together so far in his 3 years, Green Bay could look at its roster and say, what about these younger guys? What about these more youthful options? We just used a 4th-round pick on Baron Sorrell, a 5th-round pick on Colin Oliver. We like some of their traits. We like some of the stuff they bring to the table. Let's pepper those guys into the equation more. Like Green Bay drafted Baron Sorrell and Colin Oliver to be defensive ends in April's draft and back-to-back rounds last year for a reason. It was, they like the player, they like some of the traits, but also with a look ahead that maybe Enagbare's not back. Maybe it doesn't click for LVN. Maybe Rashawn Gary isn't here past 2026 and beyond. And so maybe they want to shuffle those two pieces or at least one of them in the lineup more. And so they view Kingsley Enagbare as someone that's more expendable, someone that, hey, if they lose him in free agency, it's not the end of the world. That's another factor playing into this. I think the final thing we could mention with Enagbare, I'm trying to figure out how I want to word it. Like some of the other free agents in this class for Green Bay specifically on their roster that they'll have to deal with, I don't think there's going to be a lot of pressure to bring back Enagbare at any cost and all cost. He hasn't shown to be that type of player, but to me, what he has proven has been really solid nonetheless. And the point I'm trying to make is losing Enagbare would not be the end of the world for the Packers or the defense. But to me, it creates more question marks at defensive end and a much larger trust in Lucas Van Ness that, hey, maybe in year 4 it'll finally all click and he'll stay healthy. There's a lot of easy decisions that will be made by the Packers or their free agents. Like Malik Willis is going to go somewhere else. Rasheed Walker is going to go somewhere else. Romeo Doubs is going to go somewhere else. The names that I'm looking in at that are really, really fascinating, to me it's almost a coin toss. It's Quay Walker, it's Kingsley Enagbare, it's Sean Ryan. Could they bring back all three? Maybe. Might be a bit of a pipe dream to believe in that, especially if the market gets run up on one or two of those names. I can make an easy case for bringing back Quay Walker. I can make an easy case for bringing back Kingsley Enagbare. We'll see what the Packers do. Let me know what you guys and gals think. It is Mitch. I'm on YouTube. We'll see you next time.